Okay. So, welcome guys. Hopefully it should be audible. This is part 2. And something hilarious is that this other laptop of mine has 14% battery. So I think that gives me maybe like 10 minutes to just end this off. Okay, to continue. So, let's think about intelligence from the different contexts. Okay, so what do these 7 types of intelligence that Howard Gardner shares have in common? And what can we say about Spearman's theory of intelligence and the G? All right. So 14%, 12%. Oh my God, it's going so fast. And 12%. Okay. Intelligence. Let's go. I have to intelligently, end off part 2. So, okay. So far, I've spoken about past types of intelligence. Really, the present and the future remain. So if I can talk about intelligence in the present and intelligence in the future. Okay. I felt like a fool. And I didn't like it. And it inspired me to seek knowledge. And then a moment came where I felt our species was acting like a fool. And so now I don't feel as like an individual fool, I feel like a collective fool. Because I have realized that the reason we human beings have minds and the reason the future is accessible through the mind is to, in some sense, create it. You see, basically, 3 major verbs apply to the human consciousness. Human consciousness in ancient Vedic thought, they would call this Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. These were the archetypes for it, but pretty much it's this idea that there's 3 modes to every conscious entity, and one mode is the mode of creation. The second mode is the mode of maintenance. The third is the mode of destruction. All conscious creatures will find themselves capable of these 3 modes. Now the issue is that the human civilization is like this straight line of maintenance, but this sine wave of chaos and order that is in some sense constantly polishing and sculpting this straight line that is civilization. What is going on actually is that imagine civilization is a giant sculpture, and every human being is like a philosopher sculptor, and in their lifetime the contributions and the way they serve their species and their world is like how far they sculpt this giant stone. So man is in the psychological business of creating meaning, maintaining meaning, and destroying meaning. When it comes to your intelligence, people say that every person has a nature. The idea behind the nature is pretty much that if your behaviors or originating natural disposition. So for example, if you're like, I'll give you an example. Somebody said this as a joke, but it could have been possible that like the creators of the Mario Brothers, like when they were kids, like they would use hammers to like smash turtles. Okay, and people thought they were psychos, and then they became like trillionaires or something, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that like the nature, you could see it in children too. I've had enough younger cousins to just like observe this, right? That some children, it's easier for them to destroy. Some children, it is easy for them to create, and some children, it's easy for them to maintain. Now, something hilarious that has happened, and this is not about, I would say, sexism, but it's just about the role of the genders, right? Is that the female gender has been more cultivated through evolutionary decisions to be a maintainer of reality. And when it has come to acts of creation and destruction, this has been mainly attributed to the masculine archetype. Now, when I say creation is attributed to all. These are three types of modes that every human being has, right? It doesn't matter if you're a woman who's giving birth, and it doesn't matter if you're a male writer writing a novel and creating a character inside it, you know? Do you know what I'm saying? The creative dimension is accessible to all. The maintaining dimension is accessible. The destruction dimension is accessible. Now, the thing we find in civilization is that most people become responsible for the creative dimension because they gotta move their ass, or they gotta like excuse the language, but they have to like survive. So everybody's kind of like, let me see how else I can phrase this. We are way more comfortable moving as an object than a subject. Human beings have different natures and dispositions, and to me, you know what it's like? The greatest clue I got is that people are not, like, the body is born, but the mind is thrown into the world. It's kind of strange, but when it comes to intelligence, a person has to honor the known and the unknown. So what it means is most people are afraid of what they don't know, and so they have to be dishonestly hide in some sort of knowledge. But when you are not afraid of what you don't know, you become fearless in the presence of knowledge, so you become capable from a neutral perspective to look at everything before you have any opinion, impression, or anything on it. When it comes to intelligence, think of it this way: you're an intelligent being. Now, as an intelligent being, what are the first orders of action? What are the first things that an intelligent being should do? An intelligent being needs to recognize itself and acquaint itself with its own intelligence. When an intelligent being is acquainted with its intelligence, it discovers its ability and its capability. When it discovers its ability and capability, it has an opportunity to strategize. You see, we cannot ignore how pretty much what survival is or has become as in the information age is who has the better solution to the problem that we are all facing. The reason the self-help industry and a lot of these online book industries are huge is because people are constantly giving solutions to problems. But when you look at the human position, when you look at the nature of the psyche, it's like every candle has to worry about its own flame. There was a time where I felt what I was not enough, and therefore I rendered myself to an artificial shyness into being a disharmonious entity. Do you see? It's as if we are here to learn from the world. You know, this is why I don't like the idea of a teacher, because it's impossible to stop being a student of the world. You know, they asked this enlightened guru, you know, this disciple came to this guru and it's like, can you show me God? And the guru's like, yeah. And the person's like, really? You can show me God? And the guru's like, yeah, I can show you God. You know, and the person's like, okay, show me God and I'll be like your, you know, loyal disciple. Right? And the guru says, sure. So the guru says, do you know what the ego is? And the disciple's like, yeah, man, ego's like my sense of self. And the person says, okay, so right now when you're talking to me, you're an ego, right? Like, who's talking to me right now? And the disciple's like, yeah, my ego, my sense of self is talking to you right now. So the enlightened guru says, that which is moving the ego is God. And this disciple for a second goes silent, as if he's like, whoa, what did you just say? It's like, sometimes truths are like that, The most incredible truths are like, what did I just hear? Your intelligence is your intelligence for a reason. All that Mr. Within can say is that there's two sides to the coin. Be spiritual, secular, religious, philosopher. The nature of the world speaks for itself. Every person has an inner realm. It's like I actually don't like the movie Narnia. Like, as a kid I liked it, but then I thought it was garbage later on. I liked the lion though, But just like in Narnia, like inside the closet there was another world, right? So what the ancient yogis have been saying is that as you make your outer realm still and silent, you get an opportunity for your mind to show you, the conscious persona, its intelligence. You see, it's about the quality of how you walk in this world. You see, enlightenment is not about like a certification. I am telling people, any time you see enlightenment being something that is any time you see a certificate, imagine somebody's getting rich. Anybody getting a certificate, it's like, you're keeping some people in business. In the future, educational systems are going to give students like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those med students, they're going to be like, man, this kid wants to be a doctor, we're going to give him $100,000, for free, right? Because the point of education is to enhance life. And if the person has to use the education to go make up the money, it's like their life is becoming less enhanced. Do you see what it is? The educational system is of 2022 or 23 are acting like vampires. I'm telling you, just like the vampire, right? You get to be in the romance, but they've bitten your neck already, This is why I don't call my ex, So, your intelligence is your gift, is the gift of the gods to you. And it is such a sacred gift that only your sacred eyes, which is your mind, gets to see. For me, there will come a day, hopefully, if this channel hits millions of subscribers, right? There will come a time probably where I have to go and bridge the esoteric societies of all worlds, like all cultures. Let me tell you why. Because the point of spirituality is not escapism, and it is not ritualism. Ritualism is dangerous if the ritual is not from your time. If somebody does a ritual from like 6,000 years ago, the type of consciousness you evoke is very different. So you got to be careful, right? Why? Because it's about the type of interface you're giving your mind. Somebody could have a look at their mind and be like, yo, my spirit guides, my angels, my guardian spirit animals, right? It's like, is that a invisible glowing falcon on my shoulder? Like a person can have different type of interface to their mind in interacting with their mind. For some people it could be like the spirit of the ancestors. For some people it could be channeling extraterrestrials. For some people it could be listening to the logos that has guided all scholars from the beginning of time. You could have any sort of ideological storyline and story format interface. You could give it to your mind. For me, I got bored of the story of the ideas, of the personifications of the internal objects. And so for me, my mind is kind of like Jarvis from Iron Man, like in the movie Iron Man. I'm having that kind of metaphysical relationship. So what it means is that it is that which is here to assist that which is the original. So it's like the simulation exists to serve the original, because once the simulation finds the original, it's like an echo that returned to the original voice. You see, this might sound bizarre, but we're not living in the original Earth. Why? Because every person is starting off being in their own Earth, in their own mind. So what I could tell about intelligence, or when intelligence notices it is intelligent, I am saying, dear listener, you know, there is so many ways to fall in love with anything we look at for a long time. This is what I realized. Anything we look at, anywhere our attention goes, pretty much our emotions spiral through. I've noticed this. I'm like this too. For example, when I listen to Terence McKenna and Alan Watt lectures, I've listened to so many of these lectures that when I listen to these lectures, it's like I've hated Terence, I've loved Terence, you know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like my mind is kind of, different versions of me have accessed the same geometrical structure. Therefore, different senses of self emerging. What it is all I'm saying to people is that what if intelligence is way more advanced than we think, and what if our intelligence is so advanced that by our mere intent it can make it easy for us? That means imagine this whole time more sophisticated than the most advanced AI on this planet. Imagine somehow is human consciousness and the brain. And this whole time, because we thought we are the mind, because we thought we are the brain, we stopped communicating. And imagine all we had to do, imagine this is something the future generations realize. Laptop has 3%, it may die anytime, so I'll say my goodbyes in case the talk ends, but I'll keep going. Your intelligence is how the world is treating you. Okay? The type of thoughts you have, whether they are low value thoughts which failure is being prioritized, or high value thoughts where efficiency and success is being prioritized. The idea is everybody is trying to act cool, everybody's trying to act great, and Mr.Within is here like, everybody's trying to act like a top G, incredible. So let's get a species that is acting like a top G, realizing that in actuality it's not about archetypal worship. This is something that I am just waiting to see when the most famous people on the planet will realize what's happening behind their back. You see, it's all about attention management. If all the celebrities kind of like, advocate this idea of building an advanced civilization, do you know what will happen in this world? Students will realize they are the teachers of the future. And you know what a teacher is? A teacher who's someone who already understood something, so it's like already completed a level, and is looking at the poor souls entering this world and being like, okay, somebody give them some momentum, I had a mathematics teacher who was an atheist, who every time I would enter the class, he would say this like Gaelic biblical prayer. And I was like, from the context of this Muslim kid, you know what I mean? So for a year, I heard this like, in omni patria spiritus sancti, with the exact hand motion. What intelligence is where are you? What are you? what can you do with what you are, and ultimately, why have you been given a private sight? That's your intelligence. Let me tell you this. If you're a student at school hearing this, life and karma will not change until you choose to be the pilot of your moment of being. And it's a choice. This is what children who are all waiting for like some sort of intervening, let's say metaphysical salvation, I am telling you, this world is hilarious. We're all sitting on chairs being like, can a savior come and help us stand up? And you know, Mr. Within is like, yo, shake the chair. Do you know? It's like all we have to do. It's like what I'm trying to tell the viewers. When I was young, all the things that I felt was missing from my life was actually an internal attitude shift. So intelligence is about how much you can be and observant, and as Aristotle says, it's the sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. It's like you become capable of speaking about the most complicated ideas if you can observe them from a simple point. Do you know? And that's the beauty of life, right? For me, I think about like life in a sort of yin-yang way, and sometimes when I get bored, I try to break the yin-yang symbol. What I mean by this is that there's moments where just how the world has challenged me, I challenge the spirit of the world. So imagine some kids going by and out of nowhere they trip and they get up and the child is acknowledging the world is alive. And the child gets up after tripping and says to the planet, hey planet, why did you trip me? You know? Imagine the child is alone in the yard playing and the child trips on the grass and the child says, planet, you know, who told you to trip me? Why did you trip me? What's your problem? And imagine for a second, you know, suddenly the pain from that kid's leg goes away instantly, right? And suddenly a bird lands on the shoulder of this kid and chirps, and this kid in his mind just hears the sentence like, I'm sorry, imagine. So what I'm saying is, intelligence is not, you know, what we were when we closed our eyes and felt good about it. Intelligence is how smart we were in 100 years to do something that the future generations were like, thanks for being alive. An incredible hero and champion era. Such advanced human beings are gonna be born, right? Like the human species is gonna be like this system that was so corrupt and inefficient that it felt like it doomed itself, but last minute the human mind fascinated all of us. Right? Imagine human beings begin doing things that everybody in the species are like, how dare we have ever been cruel to each other? Because you know what's bizarre? All the prophets and religions were all saying what